Welcome back, my name is Jack. Thanks for tuning into this video. It's my goal to help creative music makers make better music at home. In this one, I'm reviewing the MD1 wireless MIDI system from Xvive Audio, as well as sharing some pros and cons on using wireless MIDI in your home studio setup. The Xvive MD1 is a simple little device that allows you to wirelessly connect your general MIDI devices, such as your MIDI controllers, your synthesizers, to Bluetooth devices like your iPhone, your iPad, or even your MacBook. Additionally, if you purchase two MD1 systems, you'll actually be able to connect them together, allowing you to connect a synthesizer to a MIDI controller, a synthesizer to another synthesizer, or a synthesizer to your DAW setup via a MIDI interface. I did go ahead and purchase two MD1 systems for this video, so we're going to be going over both use cases. One MD1 with a Bluetooth device and two MD1s connected and working together. Neat. As always, if you want to check out the MD1 for yourself, there's an Amazon link down in the description. This is going to be about as quick of an unboxing as it gets. The packaging really is not all that exciting here. It did the job, it got it to me safe, it works, so I can't really complain that much. All we got to do here, pop open the tab, and the MD1 is going to be in here. It was wrapped in plastic the first time I opened it, but I had to kind of tear it off, and there was no putting it back on, so you'll have to pretend that it's there. MD1 comes in two different pieces here. There's the main brain of the MD1. This is the part that goes in the output port of your MIDI device. It's also the part that gets powered. You have to use this piece, otherwise none of it works. You don't have to use this piece. This is the piece that goes into the MIDI in connection, but it also gets connected to your main output brain part, and then they can work together as a MIDI in and an out. But again, you do have to use this main piece. The only other thing in the box is the instruction manual. Now, it's not the best manual I've ever seen, but it's also not the worst. I was able to read this and figure out how to use it. Setup for the MD1, like I said, was super simple, so I really didn't need the manual too much, but the way it's written is a little monotonous and confusing, and there might be some translation things going on, but all in all, it's enough to get you going. As I mentioned, one of MD1's most exciting features is that it can super easily pair with just about any Bluetooth-enabled device, including iOS devices such as your iPad or iPhone. For this demonstration, I'm going to use my iPhone 13 Pro running iOS 15.5. All right, so our first test, we've got our single MD1. We went ahead and plugged the MD1 into the microKORG. As you can see, it's powered and searching. We're going to set that guy down. We're going to take our iPhone and we're going to go ahead and load up the keyboard instrument on GarageBand for this test. So before we do anything with the MD1, we're just going to go ahead and do a quick little test of the keyboard itself. As you can see, it is functioning. With the MD1, we can actually use the microKORG as the controller for GarageBand on the iPhone. So we do have to change a couple settings. So we'll go to Settings, scroll down to Advanced, scroll down to Bluetooth MIDI devices, and you should see the Xvive MD1. Now, if you do have two Xvive MD1s and they're connected to each other, they may not show up in your Bluetooth list. So that's one thing I noticed. Make sure you don't have two MD1s already connected to each other. We'll talk more about that later in the video, but for now, we just have the one connected to our microKORG. We're gonna go ahead and click on it. It'll say connecting. Just wait a couple moments. Pair, says connected. We'll go ahead and go back, done. So go ahead and test GarageBand. As you can see, it's working on the phone. Now we'll go ahead and test our controller. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and hit record. We'll record a little bit with the phone keyboard, and then we'll use the controller because that's gonna be a lot easier than playing with the phone. All right, and we'll go ahead and play it back. There really wasn't any latency in the recording itself. A lot of it had to do with my own struggles with playing that on time. I do think it's a pretty accurate and good test. That seemed to work super well. If all you have is an iPhone and you want to make some tracks, getting an MD1 and some kind of cheap MIDI controller really might take your phone to the next level as a usable DAW. Now that you've seen how the MD1 system works with a Bluetooth device, we're going to pair two MD1s together, and I gotta say, this is where the usefulness and functionality of the MD1 system system really presented itself for use in my studio setup. Now, I've said this already, but I want to say it again. Full disclosure, to do what you're about to see, you do need to purchase 2 MD1 units. You cannot do it with just one. Now, I gotta be honest, the setup seems too simple to be true. I honestly just unboxed 2 MD1s, plugged one into each device, powered the devices on, and they connected nearly immediately without pressing any buttons, any kind of menu diving. They just worked. Now, I do want to show you just how simple it is to connect the MD1 to another MD1. So we've got our microcord right here. It's turned off for now. We have one MD1 system plugged into the MIDI out and the MIDI in on the back of the device. We'll turn that on in a second. We're gonna go ahead and plug the other one into my MIDI interface down here, right there. So this guy, you can't really see it because it's underneath, but if you look at my hand, it is flashing because it's looking for a connection. We're gonna go back over here to the microcord. We're gonna turn it on, and you'll immediately see it light up. It's looking for a connection. It found it. We'll go over here, and the light is solid now. So those two immediately on their own automatically just connected. We'll go ahead and test it. I'm using the MIDI interface to route everything. That's a little complicated. All you need to know is that is connected to that, and then this is basically going to be controlling this keyboard right here. Nice and easy, and we'll go down to here. Same octave. Perfect. Now, I've been using these 2 MD1 wireless MIDI systems from Xvive in my studio for a few months now, and I've got to say I've been super impressed and pleased by the reliability, the ease of use, and the consistent connection between these 2 devices. I've never had them drop out. I've never had an issue connecting them. Like I said, they worked instantly and they've worked since then. I'm also pleased to say that there's really been no noticeable lag or latency while using the MD1 wireless system. This did surprise me because, you know, it's wireless, but I feel like there is a bit of a native delay in MIDI, general MIDI over cables as it is, and I feel like the MD1 just operates within that expected range, and it's felt like I'm using a MIDI cable. Now, my studio really isn't bigger than 10 by 12 or 13 feet, so range has never really been an issue or a concern. I can pretty much move the MD1s around my room as much as I want, and they're never going to be more than 6 or 7 feet from each other. So because of that, the range hasn't ever really been put to the test in my daily use. Now, if you ask me, I wouldn't really feel super comfortable using a Bluetooth MIDI connection outside of a 15 by 15 room. I would especially not feel comfortable using a wireless system like this for any kind of live performance environment where connection and reliability is super important. That's not to say you couldn't do it and do just fine, but it is one other thing that could fail and you need to be prepared for that. Again, no criticism of Xvive or their product here. That's just how I feel about wireless stuff in general. Now, with all that said, I did want to try and test the range because why not? So I went ahead and I grabbed my trusty microcord, and we're going to go ahead and use this as a wireless MIDI controller with the Xvive MD1, and we're going to go outside, we're going to walk around and see if we can get the connection to drop out. All right, so we got a new Ableton session, and we have the microcord right here, our wireless controller with the MD1, and this microcord is going to be controlling the Korg Op6, which we're going to be recording in Ableton. Now, I am monitoring both the audio track and the MIDI tracks. We'll be able to see the audio that's being recorded as well as the MIDI notes that are being recorded by our wireless microcord controller. So we'll go ahead and record enable both tracks. We'll hit record to get it started. We'll go ahead and play a little thing on the microcord and make sure it's recording. And yep, we've got our audio and our MIDI, so it's time to take this outside and see what we can do. All right, now us studio guys, we don't get outside very often, but when we do, we got to remember to bring our sun protection so that we don't light on fire and spontaneously combust because of all the time we spend inside. So got my nifty sun hat, but we're at stop 1 and we're only about 15 feet away from the other MD1. So all that's between us and the MD1 is a wall and some glass. Hopefully this works just fine. We're gonna do a 5-note C major scale, and we'll have to check it later because I don't think there's any way I'm gonna be able to hear this when I play it. But here goes nothing. To be honest, I think I can hear it a little bit through the window. Let's move to the back of the yard and see if we're at the end of our range.
Now I'm going to step one step at a time and press one note at a time. And hopefully, as we're walking, we'll basically just be able to count the steps and then have some idea of, where the notes cut out. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. This is about halfway. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, and this is about the back. I'm going to change the angle and we'll do the last test. All right, so this is about as far back as the yard goes. It is kind of a clear shot to the studio, but it's about 100 feet or so, and we do again still have to go through the house and the wall and some windows, so really no way to hear this for sure. But we'll go ahead and do a D major scale, 5 notes, and check back and see if it recorded all of the notes. And again, let's go check our results. Cool, so as you saw, we tested 2 locations and then we tested the walk between the 2 locations. So the first location was down a floor and just outside the window past the wall there. Everything worked fine, no issues there. Like I said, I could even kind of hear it through the wall. Then we went ahead and we did about 35 paces, so about 100 feet from the first location to the final location, and then we went and tested the final location. All things considered, I'm really impressed with that range. It was outside, it was through a wall, and we made it almost 75, 85 feet. I'm pretty happy with that. I think if you're using this indoors in a studio, you're not gonna have any issues with connectivity. With that said, I do have to recommend the Xvive MD1 wireless MIDI system for your home studio setup. However, I will say, if you do want to unlock all of the features and make the most of the MD1, I do recommend going out and buying 2 MD1s and using them together. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Peace.